like it is being said that a woman who has open teeth, gap in the teeth, is bad. I am here to tell you that having gap is a brand name. Having gap just means that I'm someone who is diverse when it comes to sex and sexuality. I am here to tell you that there are 5 circles of sexuality, and we're going to examine them this afternoon. We're going to examine them and to see how our lives are shaped by these 5 circles of sexuality. Welcome everybody to Psychology at Work and Play. Go subscribe, and if you like this, click the like button and click the notification button. That means when our next video comes out, you will be notified right away. Welcome to Psychology at Work and Play. Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be diving into some key and core things as it relates to sex and sexuality. In certain cultures, these discussions are not held. People are very uncomfortable as we discuss sex. You know, this is something that is more practiced in dark spaces, locked doors, light is off. We don't talk about it. And it is about time we start talking about it. Religion has been preventing people from feeling comfortable about it. But I can tell you one thing. Sex comes from God. That is where it was created, Adam and Eve. Yeah? And God pointed it and said, these are good parts of your body. You need to use them. You know, once you're in an intimate relationship, sex is important. But more than that, we are going to talk about the definition of the word sex and also the definition of sexuality, because a lot of people don't know the difference. And so we're going to be talking about that as something important. When you say to someone, what does the word sex mean to you? You'll hear different things coming out. You'll hear sweet. You'll hear nice. You hear juicy. You hear penis. You hear vagina. You hear wind up. You hear grind up. You hear rama radam. You hear all these different phrases. You hear baby. You hear marriage. All of these things. These are all a part of the whole sex and sexuality. Sexuality, let's start there. Sexuality is a total expression of who we are as sexual beings. It starts with your very appearance, you know, the very things that we do. Sexuality begins at birth and it ends at death. Right throughout our lives, we continue to express our sexuality. Because, as I said before, we are all sexual beings, okay? Sexuality is not about who you have sex with or how often you have sex. Sexuality is more about your sexual feelings, your thoughts, your attractions, behaviors, and all of those different things towards other people and from yourself also, right? You can find people physically, sexually, or emotionally attractive. And all these things are part of our whole sexuality. Sexuality is diverse, you know, it's personal. And it is important to who we are as individuals, right? And it's important for us to discover our very own sexuality, because it can be very liberating and exciting and brings positive experiences to our lives. Some people experience great discrimination because of their sexuality and their sexual preference and sexual identity. But we all have choices in this. As everything else, we have choices in how we behave, how we operate in a sexual world, in a sexual sense, and as sexual beings. So how can we express our sexuality? Okay, so everything that we do is an expression of our sexuality. So we're going out, we're choosing our clothes, we're selecting our clothes. One of the first things that will come to your mind as you select your clothes is that you want to look sexy. You want to look good. You want to look attractive. Even when you're already married, you're not looking at anybody. You're not looking for anybody. You're not looking for intimacy per se. But you want to make sure you present yourself looking a particular way when you go out. Right? That is an expression of our sexuality. You're going on the road. You don't put yourself together right. And you're comfortable with that. But once you see a male or a female that you feel that there may be some level of attraction, it's all happening so quickly. So once you see a man or you see a woman, automatically you start becoming very conscious of what you're wearing, how you're walking, you know, and all of that. And so you see people, when they see other people, they start walking and rocking and whining and all of that. Even as you sit to eat in a restaurant, eating all that nice and the pinky goes up, that is a part of our expression. Because somehow deep in the back of our minds, in our unaware state, we are thinking that there is going to be some attraction somewhere with somebody else. So, and even the smallest of a baby, can express their sexuality. A baby can, if you play with the baby's penis, without knowing that there's anything happening, the baby's penis will become erect. A small baby, just a few days old, that penis can become erect. And it's not because the baby wants to have sex, it's just a natural part of our sexual being, or sexuality. A woman at 90, you may wonder how can she express her sexuality? She may not be thinking sex anymore, but as it relates to her private parts, you know, the genital area, you're taking care of her, you're giving her a bath. She want to ensure that that aspect of her, that area is covered, even no matter how sick they are. Once there's some level of consciousness, they're going to pull the towel or they're going to want you to cover that area of them. And so we express our sexuality right through from birth to death. So now we're going to move over into the circles of sexuality. So the first circle of sexuality is called sensuality. Sensuality really involves our level of awareness, you know, acceptance of the whole enjoyment of our own bodies and the bodies of others. And it includes things like skin hunger. You know, we like to be touched. The last video we talked about, you know, touching and the whole response when you say you're where you want to be touched. Well, sensuality speaks to skin hunger. So when you kiss someone at the neck and all the caressing, you know, simple touch, we are people who like to be touched as humans, and certain areas of our bodies are more stimulating than others. So it is a part of our sexuality. So we call it skin hunger, all right? And the other part is the whole visual stimuli. The visual stimuli is really when a man looks at something, you see it, you know, you like what you see, you become attracted to it, and you get all the excitement, your body start responding to it. That is the whole sensuality. And then you have the sexual response cycle, and we'll talk about that in the other video to come. And then it also speaks to body image, you know, the whole body image, what you look like. Nice shape, small waist, broad hips, big butt in Jamaica. If you have a big butt, oh Lord, trust me, you have everything going for you. Broad hips, you know, we call it the Coca-Cola bottle shape. Yeah, it's the Coca-Cola bottle shape. Yeah, you know, I don't know when my tongue's gonna stop tying up. I think it has something to do with my open teeth, my gap. But nonetheless, we're still moving along. That's for another discussion. Another part of sensuality also is the whole fantasy, where we look at a picture, you know, we imagine someone, you're in your house, you're looking through the neighbor's window, you see the neighbor taking a shower, and you know, you start having fantasies about all of this because you start feeling all of that tingling happening in your body. And that is where the whole sensuality part comes in. The other one is sexualization. And this involves, you know, how we use our sexuality. And it may include the whole manipulation, you know, controlling others, you know, in a sexual setting. And it is also dealing with components, you know, whole image, media, the messages that we send, the whole flirting, the whole seduction, withholding of sex, you know, sexual harassment, incest, rape, all of those things are the part of us that talks about sexualization. So we've talked about sensuality, which is really about the skin hunger, liking to be touched and all of that. And sexualization now is the whole flirting and the whole, you know, the body image that we present to the world, you know, the whole seduction, the actual sexual act, sexual harassment, incest, and rape. The third circle of sexuality has to do with the whole intimacy. Creating that bond, that whole caring for someone else, sharing, loving someone, whether you love them or you're liking someone, you know, taking the whole risk. You know, I know men will walk miles and miles and miles to go and find a woman. And even when they know the woman's husband is there, they will still take the risk and go. Women will journey far and wide to see a man. And the excitement of it is the risk-taking. The whole intimacy involves a whole lot of risk-taking. And then there's the aspect where you become vulnerable. You allow yourself to have all of these feelings, and your raw vulnerability is exposed. That's a part of intimacy. A lot of people get in relationships, and the things that you do, you lay down, knowing that you're going to have sex with somebody without knowing what is coming. You don't know the size of the penis. You don't know who the person really is. But you allow yourself at that moment to become vulnerable. That's what intimacy brings. And then there's this self-disclosure where certain personal things that you have and you vow you would never tell anybody. Like in Jamaica, my brothers would say, when the sex is good, the lady will promise, I'll give you my father's hug around the back. Oh, this is so good. I'll give you the goat. I'll give you the whole pen. I'll give you my house. I'll give you my car. So you become vulnerable and you start speaking things, even personal things that you didn't plan to share with others. This is what the circle of intimacy will do to you. And in that, you also form trust. How do I create trust in this relationship? All right. These are all some of the things that are involved when we talk about sexuality. It's not about the act of sex alone. It involves all of these things that we're mentioning. The other aspect of the sexual circle is our whole sexual health and reproduction. Very, very important. This aspect of it examines our whole sexual behaviors, you know, our sexual activities, the positions, all of those things, whether we do oral sex, anal sex, all of those things, whether we choose to have, you know, anything to do with the whole behavior related aspects. And then in this, you also have the anatomy and the physiology or body makeup, you know, whether you have small breast, you have big breast, you have small butt, you have big butt, you know, different aspects of the whole physiological makeup. And then there's a reproductive aspect where who can have a baby, who can have a baby, you know, the different hormones that are produced, males and females, you know, having children. And then there is the aspect of contraception, because once there's reproduction, then you start thinking about contraception. What do I do to prevent pregnancy from taking place? Do I take an abortion because I don't want to have this baby coming? What are the issues that will prevent me from taking a baby into this world? It also talks about sexually transmitted infections. STIs are very, very common. So when you think about your sexual health and reproduction, these are some of the key things that you will find coming out in these discussions. And then the final part of the circle now will look at your sexual identity, the whole biological gender. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I at birth? And there are quite a few different issues now in a modern time, now very modern, where we're talking about who you identify as. So you have the gender identity. So I may be born a girl, but I may have a lot of male hormones, and then I start feel like I want to be a male. In this time, persons are saying that it's okay to identify as who you are. So the biological aspect is there, but you can choose to ignore the biological aspect of it and to say, I am identifying as a woman. I am identifying as a man. Okay? And so we have a lot of people doing sex changes, you know, because they really want to fulfill whatever sexual identity they have, and they go the whole way to do their sex change. So if you have a vagina, you want a penis now because that's who you identify as now. Okay? And then there's also in this sexual identity, gender roles. And we have been living in this gender role confusion for a long time. Once upon a time, woman would stay home and look after the kids, you know, take care of the house and all of those. And the man usually goes out to do all the work. Now that has changed significantly. Gender roles, we're seeing a change where men will stay home and women will go out, right? So in terms of who is solely responsible for this particular action, it has become modernized. And so we're not seeing that so much, but there's still the discussion, okay? And then there is a sexual orientation. Am I going to be gay? Am I going to be a lesbian? Am I going to be a homosexual? Am I going to be heterosexual? Do I have sex with men alone? Do I have sex with women? Do I have sex with men and women? You know, do I like anal sex? Do I like vaginal penetration? You know, what kind of sex do I like? So sexual identity plays a very important role in who we are. And all of these that we talk about, they are built on our personal values. Our value system helps us to make decisions. You have a lot of persons who have homosexual tendencies and the orientation from a long time ago, but the values that have been placed or has been exhibited in your family throughout the ages has kept some people in line until they make their own decisions. Did you know that women play a key role in the sexual orientation of the children? One of the things that leads also to men becoming homosexuals is the fact that the woman during her first trimester of pregnancy goes through a whole lot of issues that create some mental instability, and the last trimester, so the first and the last trimester are very, very critical, right? So when a woman is pregnant, they need to be very, very comfortable, because when you're not and you experience a lot of stress and all of those things, it impacts the hormones. So then you have males getting more of the female hormones, and they have the females getting more of the male hormones. And that sometimes causes the confusion. So you'll have a boy who is born with very small waist, broad hips, look the part like a girl, acts like a girl, but has a penis hanging down. And you'll find the same thing for a girl, you know. The breasts are there, but they are very small. You know, they find themselves behaving like boys, broad shoulders, the voice, you know, all of those inner feelings. And so they may be born with all of these things. But then what you find is what happens after that is behavioral. So genetically, biologically, there are some things that cause you to have more of one male or hormone or female hormone, right? But it's the behavior that you practice after all of that is there that will determine if you are homosexual or you're heterosexual or you're bisexual. And bisexual is having relationship with both males and female. Heterosexual means having relationship with a man and a woman, right? Homosexuality is two men in an intimate setting having sex. And then you have lesbians, which refers to two ladies having sex. So the sexuality has so many different aspects to it. And in my next video, I'm going to talk to you about the phases of the sexual responses. You know, when you get into the whole sex part of it, you know, we're going to talk about the different components of sexual identity. You know, we're going to be talking about so many other factors relating to sexuality. So, as I was explaining to you earlier, in Jamaica, people tend to be talking about a woman who has open space, to say they are bad women and they have plenty men, and you know, they are promiscuous. But I beg to differ. And why I differ, I can tell you that I consider myself a very sexual being. I love to have discussion about sex. I love to have sex. Sex is good. It comes from God. It was intended to be good. But because of sin and fear, we run and hide and do it in the dark. And it's no longer good. And I believe that if you're going to have sex, you need to have it good. Do it good. You need to enjoy sex. It's not something that you hide away and do. It's something that you do because it was meant for it to be good. Okay? Churches are now open to have conversation with their church members about sex. If church members are now talking about sex, what says you? So, if you like what we're talking about right now, if you like this video, I want you to like, I want you to subscribe more than anything else. Subscribe, and so we can get going. But I also want you to hit that notification button. That means whenever my next video comes out, you're going to be one of the first ones to see it. Okay? Thank you for being here. Looking forward to see you again. Welcome to Psychology at Work and Play.